welcome to Neuvias. My name is Carol, and today we have Marge.
Hi.
Hi, and today's lovely topic today is boundaries, preserving your energy.
Yay. Yeah.
Yay. Yes, because a lot of us, boundaries, we just don't do boundaries well. I would like to point out.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, go ahead,
Go
Marge.
ahead, sweetheart.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, setting boundaries is an essential part of your healthy relationship or working environment or just personally. Setting those boundaries helps you kind of find your key points to consider when you're trying to establish boundaries. Because a lot of us, like I said, do not know how to say no.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that short little sentence, two letter sentence is very difficult for a lot of us. And I think that's just things that we were taught growing up.
Yes. No,
And
I agree. I know. But yeah. So today, March, what I did is I pulled two cards since we are in the topic of boundaries. And I thought we'd go with another favorite of mine, should I say. They're all favorites. I always say, oh, this deck, I love it. But we're doing the peanuts today because
yay.
it's an inspirational deck. And I thought with us talking about boundaries today, I thought it would be a good one to utilize today. This
Mm-hmm.
So if you're joining us, welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whichever side of the world you are in.
Yes, indeed.
Yes. So let's see what this Snoopy inspirational deck has to pull out in regards to boundaries. Because yeah, this would be a really good one.
Yeah.
Violet. So it's funny at Violet's because if you see Violet is can usually just pretty much speak her mind, and there she is already yelling.
Yep.
So yeah, when you think of Violet, you just think of Violet is pretty self-explanatory. I'm gonna get the message across, and she's not a mean little girl, but she does want to make sure that she's heard across who's ever listening to her.
That's true. Yep.
So yeah, so I'm assuming Violet's probably coming us today since we are on the topic of boundaries that maybe somebody might be yelling at you and you don't know how to set that boundary and you probably have just had enough of it and you probably want to pull your hair out and tell them to please just stop yelling already. And
Yeah.
maybe this is a good starting point to start telling them I hear you, but I can't do this right now, or something just to kind of break and get your space going. So,
Yeah, it's important to make sure that people feel heard,
yeah.
but to be heard as well. You can't hide yourself and just roll over, if you're feeling that your boundaries being pushed and pushed. Usually a lot of people in their relationships don't set boundaries to begin with. You just kind of work them out. And if you've been too giving of your energy or your love or yourself, your time, um, it can become a habit and then you don't know how to roll it back.
Hmm.
And then you're having problems with setting a boundary after the fact.
Yeah. So, it's definitely crucial to understand your needs first because you don't want to lose yourself, like Amar just saying, specifically, we're just talking about relationships, lose yourself in that relationship because then you're going to start feeling, what's the word, where you're constantly like, um, not taking advantage of the relationship, but just oh, I lost my train of thought, but to where you're giving and giving and giving and giving, and you're
Right.
not able to get back.
Yeah. When it's on unbalanced relationships where it's not
Yes,
a give and take, it's a give and give.
yes, yeah. So definitely, I would say definitely know your limits because you don't, in setting those boundaries, whether it like you relationship, work, because if you don't have balance in your life or with first of all, setting that boundary and then not having a balance there, you're really going to go. crazy. Like not really
Yeah.
crazy, but like just overwhelming.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it throws you off your game. It's hard to, one of the things that you'll find when you're not having appropriate boundaries for yourself is
Mhm.
that you'll find that you've lost some of your inspiration or you've lost some of your joy. Or like I had a job one time I loved so much I would get up early, get to work early, which is not me. I'm a late person. I'm a night owl
I
and
know.
I am
Yeah.
not person that goes to work early. But sometimes when you're really inspired and you love something, you
Mhm.
get up and you're excited about the day. And if that was to change and you're like, oh, this isn't working for me anymore, then you have to evaluate why,
Yeah.
right? Is it an egoic response or is it a spiritual response? And that kind of goes with why, what you're thinking when the situation happens, don't you think, Carol?
Yes, yeah, because there's two types of boundaries, whether it's just the general boundary or in the spiritual essence of boundaries. And we'll get into that in a hot second. But I do want to add that you have to be consistent when you are setting your boundaries. Like, don't say it once and then, like, you know what, I'll go ahead and do it again. Because then you're going to get back into rolling into that same thing of where people are just consistently taking advantage of the situation and doesn't help. So be consistent when you are starting to set those boundaries.
Right.
Yeah, because then,
Yeah.
yeah, you just don't want to say yes, and you're not being ugly about it, but you definitely, your soul does need a break from time to time. And I know it's hard for us to even remotely say, well, what's that? What's a break?
Right. That's true.
Because we don't really give ourselves break. It's like the world keeps going and evolving, and we keep going and going and going. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's true. That is
Hmm.
very true.
Yes.
Giving yourself an energetic break and nurturing, that's the word I was looking for, nurturing yourself
Hmm.
as well as the relationship is important. And sometimes a break is needed for setting a boundary and regrouping a little bit.
No, yes, absolutely. Respecting those boundaries. That's another important one right there with you because you have to respect, if they're respecting your boundaries, then by all means, respect their boundaries as well.
Right.
Like, there has to be a give and take. You can't have one or the other giving, 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 and one taking, taking, taking. So,
That's
or,
true.
and you can always compromise those too as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
So,
that's all what relationships are all about, right? Finding what works. And maybe it works. Maybe you can work out something and maybe you can't
yes.
for the moment, or maybe later you will. You just don't know until you try. And if you don't have the communication and the boundaries set, and
Hmm.
and like you said, being consistent with setting that boundary and meaning it,
Yes.
it's like raising your kids, right?
Oh my God, yes. Yes, it's all about practicing to assertiveness. You have to be assertive when you're like stepping
That's
into
it.
boundaries, right? Assertiveness
Right.
is what we're aiming for.
True. That's true. But with kindness, you can be kind and assertive. You
Oh
don't
yeah,
have to be assertive and grumpy
or
or
cracking
abuse.
the whip.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, because then you won't get anywhere, and then those boundaries go into something
Deteriorate.
more.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the whole
and
thing just crumbles.
yeah, which is probably another podcast for us.
Yeah, true. Probably.
But yeah, definitely just know when to say no and it's okay to decline other requests and stuff. I know, like me, as an empath, and there's a bunch of us out there. It's you want to try to do the right thing and you want to be there for everybody, but then you've completely depleted yourself,
Yeah.
and then you start not neglecting, but like you start getting upset with yourself. And I know there's a word, and it keeps coming to me, but I cannot spit it out.
Can't grab it.
Yeah, to where you start feeling like frustrated with yourself and mad and just holding those emotions because now you've given so much of you. There's no energy for just you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That balance is important.
absolutely.
And so when you have to say no to somebody or set a boundary for something like that, Carol, how do you um handle the guilt that most of us get when we have to say no to someone?
For me, honestly, if I have to say no, I'm still, after I've had that conversation, I've said no, it's still lingering with me, and and I'm like, I feel so not yeah, upset and sad within myself, because I'm like, dang, now I feel bad because I said no to this person, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah,
But I will, like, hopefully, hopefully they would understand the reasoning why I can't give so much of myself, because I am just either exhausted, so it's kind of hard, March, to be honest with you, when it comes to that. I try to just think about it for a split second and then just let it go, because I already said no, and there's really nothing I can do,
right,
but if that should arise again, then by all means, I'm going to be like, let me see what my day's looking like or whatever, and then I'm going to proceed forward. If I can do it, I can so do it. But
right.
I wish there was like 700 of me to be okay. You take this, you take that, you go
I
do
hear
this.
you. We
You know
need
what
that
I
Jimmy
mean?
Neutron machine.
Yeah, but there really isn't a lot of us out there, so it's just
Yeah.
you and you only. So, how would you handle that, Marge?
I'm depends on what kind of a no it is.
Hmm.
If it's a no for one of the kids or just somebody asking me to do a task,
Yeah.
then if it's that kind of a boundary, it doesn't really bother me for very long. It's like, sorry, it's not an option, you know?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if it's something like it's a big boundary, like you've had a relationship going and going, I let it
Mhm.
go way too long before I finally say, okay, this has got to change now. We've
Yeah.
talked, and I've usually talked it to death. And beat that horse like crazy. And then it's like,
You can't
okay, I
whip those
can't do
dead
this
horses.
anymore.
Oh my gosh. No,
So,
I always use that term. You can't whip those dead horse anymore.
yeah,
Can't whip
yeah,
that dead horse.
yeah. So I
um,
do have a tendency to go way too far with
yeah.
those bigger no's, you know. Though, and those are, I find those are more not the egoic ones. Those are the soul ones for me,
That
the
would make
really
sense.
deeper ones.
Hmm. No, that would definitely make sense. It's all about reevaluating your
Mm-hmm.
needs when you're setting these boundaries as well. So,
True.
and of course it changes over time, which is fine, but you
Right.
still have to make sure that what's important to you in that moment, whether you need to say yes or no, um, just however necessarily that needs to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that it completely went out of my head. What I was about to say went whoop, gone. That's so funny. It
Well,
happens.
it's okay. Well, I'll tell you what. We'll do another card, and then we'll go into spiritual boundaries.
That
Because
sounds good.
that's definitely a good one. So I'm gonna pull. I'm using the chakra card for this one because I thought maybe with boundaries it'll help kind of give us some guidelines. Okay, Spirit, do your thing. Do your thing, Spirit.
That's it.
We're talking about boundaries today because as humans, there's some of us that are kind, and then there's humans that just say no all the time.
True. That's
Yeah.
true. They probably learned it early.
Yes. Yes.
It's
You
a
remember that one
challenge.
movie with Jim Carrey, the Yes Man?
I don't think I've seen it.
Okay, well, he used to like always say, "No, I don't have time. I don't have time." And he went to the seminar, and the whole seminar was about saying yes to everything.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, it was so. Speaking of boundaries, that's a really good movie if y'all have not watched it. He would say yes to everything, and finally it nicked him to where he couldn't do everything, and so that's how the
Yeah.
movie unfolds. Like,
Interesting.
yeah,
I'm going to
so
write that down.
yeah, it's a really good one. It's a little older, but if you guys have not seen it, I suggest watching Yes Man. It's very good. So the card we did pull is the solar plex. This is the third chakra in your body system. It is associated with empowerment of weakness of the ego. This chakra has an influence on your preoccupations about your self image and social status. This chakra brings solar light encoded energies into your body, activating the nerves that radiate in the pit of your stomach.
Mm,
That's funny that the solar plex should come up during boundaries.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think
I
it makes sense.
Yeah, it really does because if you are like we were talking earlier, if you are feeling guilty, maybe you start holding that
Yeah,
guilt inside you. And um I'm thinking because of the solar plexus popping up in our reading that sometimes with you saying no, that sometimes you could also make yourself sick because you're like, oh, now I feel so bad. I wish I would have said
right.
yes, but I have so much I'm going. There's just can be multiple things going on in your mind, and
Yeah,
then that starts creating all this emotional havoc for you, and then your body starts going down.
true, true. You get that knot in your stomach because it's like, oh, what am I going to do about this too? You know,
Yeah.
and now I've done this and was I right? And second guessing yourself. And that's where meditation and being present is really helpful.
Yes. Yes. So that's a really interesting card, and it's the weakness of ego. Ego probably steps in there all the time when it comes to boundaries as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, there's a difference between being defensive and discerning.
Yes. I agree. Um, I would say if that's kind of how you're feeling because you did say no, and you were learning to stick with your guns and say no, doesn't necessarily mean you're going to say no all the time, but just start doing some self-reflection, or like Marge said, some manifesting, or I'm sorry, not meditations to kind of help you because you want to make sure your values and your beliefs and stuff um, are not triggered by those all those emotions.
Right.
So yeah, even journaling is a good one to say, okay, I said no to this person today, or whatever, just write it down and let it go, and let it
Yeah.
yeah, just let it
And
go.
follow the flow, the nudges of your spirit will
Yes.
help you guide you into understanding why you had to set that boundary and really sitting with it and thinking
Mhm.
it through so that you can come to giving yourself the grace
Yeah.
because you owe it to yourself
Hmm.
to really and up to understand why you have to say no sometimes.
Yes. And it's also all about protecting your energy because,
Mhm.
when you are saying no, maybe there's a reasoning why you said no.
Right?
Things can sometimes happen if you say no, hey, I can't make it this time, maybe next time, and who knows, something may have happened that you got missed or something. You just never know. I mean,
Yeah,
how the things go on a day to day.
that's true.
So yeah, so just remember you're protecting your energy as well, since we are talking about the spiritual side.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's one of those things. What kind of things indicate to you that you need to set a boundary? Yeah, if you think about that, if you've got the unease, I think we kind of talked about that at the beginning.
Yeah.
But if you're feeling uneasy or anxious and consistently so,
Yeah.
then you need to make an adjustment in the relationship or the situation because it's not always just a relationship, but boundaries, you can only set boundaries with other beings, right?
Right.
So,
Yeah. Yes.
yeah. Or yourself.
That's true. Lots of self reflection on
Yep.
yourself.
Yep.
But yeah, it's all about Marge communicating clearly to what you're wanting to set those boundaries with. Uh,
Yeah.
just expressing yourself clearly. As for me too, when you did say that about setting boundaries, and you start getting an uneasiness, sometimes I do feel that way. Like there's a reason saying, don't go, or who knows, I do decide to go, and you walk outside and the tire's flat. There's a
Right.
reason for everything, and then of course it's not, you probably won't feel as bad because that was not your, you know that situation just kind of happened in that moment, and so
Right.
you're like, hey guys, I'm not gonna be able to make it. I wish I could have. Blah blah blah. So
Yeah.
just yeah, you just
Yep.
never know. Spirit may trying to hover over you and say, no, I'm protecting you. So
Yeah. And it can always be something that you, like you said, you just avoided a situation that you didn't need to be involved in.
no. I was going to say too, Marge. Another one is recognizing toxic influences
Yeah.
when we're dealing with boundaries.
True.
Yeah, because I know on a day to day we listen to so much social media, and I think I cannot express enough of bringing up social media because it is a huge part of everyone's life now.
Yeah.
And so just listening to that, if you're feeling uneasy about what somebody might be saying, then personally, like me, if I'm listening to something and I don't feel right with it, I just swipe it up, like,
Yep.
or swipe left, or however you want to do it, because I just am not resonating with what they're saying, and so
Yeah.
that me personally setting that boundary, like, nope, I'm not listening to this. I will say the other one I hate the most is when the ads come on for like, okay, if you've gotten sick or you have,
Oh, the medications.
yes, all those, I just, nope, not listening to this, not listening. Those are my boundaries right
Yeah.
there.
Well,
Or,
that's one of those things we've talked about so many times about you being in alignment with what you want in life. And if all you're hearing is this cancer, that cancer, this medication, that medication, and politics, it's not going to be a good day.
no.
And I will even if I'm listening to a spiritual podcast or something like that, and what they're saying doesn't resonate with me, or the tone with which they're speaking
Yeah.
doesn't resonate with me, it's like, nope.
Yeah.
Yep.
Limit your exposures, people, when it comes to social media, because
Yeah. You,
there's so much said. The one I cannot stand the most is when the rash, the hives or whatever it's called, where you're old, as you've gotten older, you something. What is it? It's not
oh,
serious.
shingles.
Jingles. I'm like, what? We've been around since 60s, 70s, 40s, and you never heard of a thing of that. And that one constantly, and I'm like, nope.
That's because they developed a shop for it and they can sell it to you.
Yeah, that one.
I think that shot came around like 15 years ago, 20 maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, not otherwise you just suffered with it and you know.
I just, there's just some things you just don't ever hear of in your life, and then all of a sudden this new disease pops up, and
Yeah.
and I'm just like, toxic influence. I'm not listening to it.
No, thank you.
No,
That's true.
yeah,
True,
I
true.
don't like those exposures in my world, in my facility, anything, period.
Yeah. Yep.
So
Yeah, my
yeah,
daughter was talking about some of those ads the other day and she goes, "Why? Why do they want to shove this down my throat?" Well, it's money.
and unfortunately, it's sad because people do start like, oh my God, what if that's what I do have? Oh my, maybe I need to look into this, and you're
Yeah.
already putting that thought process starting to go. Like, no, set that boundary and say, no,
Yep.
I'm not listening to this.
Not at all.
Yeah, you create
Protect,
you.
yeah, protect yourself,
Yes,
preserve your own energy, and keep in alignment.
yes. No, I completely agree.
I think a lot of people don't realize that's a boundary too. Choosing not to do something or choosing to do something.
Hmm.
You know, there were times when I was younger that somebody would say, "Don't do that, don't do that, don't do that," and my boundary was like, "Oh, I'm doing it. This is the way it is."
Oh my
Because
God.
it's because it it nurtured my soul. It fed my spirit.
Hmm. No, I agree. I agree. So yeah. Oh,
Hmm.
interesting. All right, well, let's pull another card since we had lovely Violet pop out on our first
I
card.
think that's great. That was perfect.
If y'all are joining us right now, we are using the Peanuts inspirational deck. Inspirational and Violet popped out. So yeah, but let's see what else we've got in our cards tonight. What's what we're talking about? If you're just joining us, we are talking about boundaries, preserving your what do we call it? Preserving your energy. So yeah, just trying to help people, show them how they can put those boundaries down.
Yes, and should.
Absolutely. Pigpen.
Talk a little bit about Pigpen. He is such a just such a mess. It's so cute.
So, Pigpen probably doesn't have to necessarily have to put up his boundary. Poor Pigpen.
He is a boundary.
He is a boundary. This poor child, he's, the cutest thing ever. I think he's just the sweetest little boy ever on the show. And if y'all don't know who Pigpen is on Peanuts, Pigpen is usually just really messy. He's not a very clean little boy, and that's how he is on the show. And he doesn't really just he goes with his own vibe, I guess you could say.
Yep.
So I
I
find
think that's really cool. He's got that cloud up around him, like, nope,
yeah,
there's
Pig
my
like
boundary right
yeah,
there.
yeah. And so I don't think Pigpen has to make those choices when it comes to setting boundaries, because you know he's doing his own thing. He's got, like Marge said, he's got his own boundaries covering him,
I think that's so
and
cool.
he's okay with that. He is so okay with that.
Yep. He just goes
Wow.
on his merry way because his boundaries are intact.
Yeah, yeah. He's just living his life to the best that he knows how.
I think that's great.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, that's funny.
So with Pigpen, let's get into boundaries. So if you notice that Pigpen's creating physical space, that's kind of how that goes.
Yeah.
He is creating his physical space. So um, with that note, just set some time aside for yourself when you're trying to create a sacred space for you during that time that you are setting that boundary. I know we never do that because we're so, like I said, we're pulled in every direction, and so
Yeah.
it's good to help, pull some downtime for you when you do say no. Like, even if it's you're saying no because you're so exhausted and you're tired, you need to start creating that little sacred space for you,
Right.
because your body's telling you, hey, we need to hold off a bit and rest a little bit and regroup and refocus.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
And not all, I think we said this before, but not all boundaries are no's.
abs-
Sometimes they're just, you know, um, not ultimatums, but it's like you got to tell people what you want and what you need
yes,
to make the relationship more balanced for
hmm
you.
yes. No, I agree. Personal um, reflections is kind of what you need to do too. If that kind of helps soothe what you're from being distracted from.
Right.
And so yeah, so I would highly
Yeah.
recommend, like you said, you just put on a good meditation. If you have to get yourself some wine just to unwind,
Yep.
just set
Sit
up
in
a
your car and listen to the rain.
yes. The ocean is a good one too. Just listening to
Hmm.
that ocean vibe. But yeah, yeah, just creating a little sanctuary for yourself.
Yeah.
When you did say no to whoever, you didn't feel like going out that day, or you didn't, as my kids like to say, I'm taking a mental day.
Yeah.
That's creating a boundary, because your soul's telling you you need that little bit of downtime for
You need
you.
to take care of yourself.
Yes. Um, I was going to say another one is using affirmations. That's another boundary that you can use to help you um, kind of find a positive, I guess, reinforcement when you're
Hmm.
doing affirmations, and that will also help you with you trying to set your boundaries as well.
Right. Yeah. Creating the environment for yourself that you need to have with those affirmations.
Yes. And then you're also doing it for your well being as well. It's like we're like batteries if you really think about it, right? We're like that.
Right?
What is the rabbit? The one
The
that keeps
Energizer Bunny.
Energizer Bunny. We keep going, going, going till we can't go anymore. The battery dies out, and so
Yeah,
you know, even him, he or the Energizer Bunny has to set his boundaries from time to time to rejuvenate.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, Mark, before I put another card, is there another way you can emphasize how other people could set boundaries?
I I I can't think of anything because it's pretty straightforward
Yeah,
boundaries. It's confusing in how you decide what boundary you need to set.
right.
That's where the meditation and recognizing that self-talk. That self-talk, sometimes it's your spirit talking to your heart saying, you know, this is not balanced. You need to find some more
Mhm.
balance here. And and recognizing how the situation, whether it's spiritual or emotion, just egoic, both are valid reasons to
Mhm.
set a boundary.
Yeah. Just
If it's hurting you or making you feel unworthy or making you feel
Mhm.
distracted or anxious.
Yeah. I would say just it's like doing those regular check-ins with yourself, you
Mhm.
know, see if anything's changed within you or adjust if you've had to adjust something within yourself. And it's all necessary, you know.
Yeah.
So just doing a quick how am I feeling today? I know it sounds kind of like what is she talking about, but if you think
Oh,
about
it's so
it,
important.
it's very, yeah, I completely agree. You have to do check-ins within yourself because you're setting that mood or that mood for the day. And
Yeah.
so just a quick, check in with myself, get my day going, and then you start flowing through your boundaries.
Right. Well, if you think of your inner self and your spirit as a separate entity for a little bit and recognize that that's just a little child
Mhm.
that you need to love and take care of, that just like your dog or your cat or
Right.
whatever thing speaks to you, but you deserve and you require nurturing too.
Hmm.
And you can't always be nurturing everybody else and ignoring yourself.
Yes. Be kind to yourself for sure. Absolutely. Just setting those boundaries can be a process. And so I know we don't like to, um, well, I shouldn't say we don't like to. I know a lot of people who put themselves first, and that's okay. But there's also a lot of us that don't put themselves first.
Right.
Everybody else is first. And so, sometimes you have to kind of turn that and say, okay, I'm putting myself first now.
Yep. Create that balance.
Create that balance, absolutely. And then, of course, as you're creating that balance, you're also navigating through your journey, like to see what is going to be beneficial for you and what no longer serves you, and so forth. So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Are your physical and is your physical environment and your decisions on a day-to-day basis in alignment with what your spirit is leading you to?
Yes, absolutely. No, I agree because it's tough. I mean, I will tell you, especially if you're an empath, it's very tough out there to set boundaries
Yeah.
because you don't want to be ugly, you don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, you
Right.
don't want to be like judged because, well, you said no, so I'm gonna go tell so and so. It's
Yeah.
to be honest with you, that's not a really good friend. But I'm just saying, just be sure not to think in that mindset. Well, if I say no, they're gonna go tell so and so, and then I'm never gonna get invited. If you don't get invited, who cares? Go do
Yeah.
your own thing, and life
Yeah.
doesn't stop because you set boundaries.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's funny because you said really early in this conversation about people respecting the boundary and you being consistent about reinforcing the boundary. And there are people in my life that have been in my life in the past or are currently in my life that don't respect the no. They come back later and try again and come back later and push and push and push. And
Hmm.
it's like, if it's an important boundary for me, then it's there's no decision to be made. We can talk. I still
Yeah.
love you.
Right.
but it's not changing. The boundary is the boundary.
Mm-hmm. No, that's true. Also, Marge, too about seeking support. You know, let's just say that those friends didn't respect your boundaries. Try to find people with the same like-minded beliefs and values and your cores, because those are the people who are going to understand you much more.
Right.
You know, even if you have to find a community that is more reinforcing those boundaries and more encouraging to what they're trying to help you with. You know,
Yeah, that's
community.
true.
Hello, Neuvias.
Big thing. Yeah, right. Exactly.
But yeah, so maybe as you're saying no to these boundaries, who knows? Maybe you're letting go of people who not who no longer need to be a part of your world, and,
That's true.
and it's okay.
Yeah.
There's a lot more fish in the sea, as they always say. I'm not saying it in a relationship, but just in general.
In general. Yeah, there's another job, maybe not another child, but you can set a boundary, you know. I There are how many times when your kids were growing up when they say we want ice cream
Oh
and
my God.
then 2 hours later, can we get ice cream now? No. Later. Now, can we get ice cream now? No. We're not going to get ice cream. And you just have to be consistent. No ice cream, not today.
Yeah. Oh, I know. That's like my grandbabies. We take them to the store, and they always want one of them always wants a toy. I want a toy. I want a toy. Every time you think, if I'm going to go to the store, you're buying me a toy.
Right.
No, we have to set those boundaries, and they don't understand, and so just setting those
Yeah.
boundaries, because you don't not want to. I mean, yes, as a grandparents, you definitely want a spoiled child. However, there's certain boundaries also,
Right.
that need to be had there.
And that's for them. It's not
Yeah.
for you.
No.
The boundaries aren't always just for you.
No. I agree. So that way, it's a learning process for sure.
Yes, absolutely. You got
Well,
that right.
yes. I will go ahead and pull our last card. Our cards today, Marge, for
They're
Violet.
so great.
Yeah, the solar plexus, and then of course we got Pigpen as our story today, because we've been creating these lovely little stories with
I
our
love it's so bing bam boom right there. I love it.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's really interesting that when you say that, because I just never thought about, like, okay, it's going to create a story for us. But as we've been doing this lately, it's been really inspiring and
Yeah,
fun.
it is fun. And it's kind of like excuse me, I got a frog in my throat. It really helps you put the pieces together and make a better vision of what you're talking about with the cards
Yeah,
you're pulling.
yes, for sure. That's true. All right, so we got the throat chakra. Aff-
Communication.
yeah, throat chakra and its affirmations. We were just talking about affirmations.
Yep.
I live in my truth. I communicate my truth. I am the truth.
Awesome.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes. Throat chakra.
Talk about somebody confirming what we were saying.
That's right. Spirit's always got us.
Always.
I live in my truth. Yeah.
Yep.
You live in your truth, you're setting those boundaries. You communicate your truth, you're setting those boundaries.
Mhm.
You are the truth, you're setting those boundaries.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, I cannot express enough. What do you think of that, Marge? Isn't that an interesting card towards the end?
Perfect. As usual. It's funny is usually on your last card, then we go back and say, "What do you have anything to add?" Well, how can you add anything to that?
No,
That's just spot on.
I know, I
Absolutely.
agree. And I love that affirmation. That's
Yeah.
such a beautiful affirmation.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, and it's not using the we or all or y'all, if y'all live in Texas, it's using the I presence.
Yes,
Yes,
that's true.
yes. Because we sometimes lose sight of our I presence. So this one, I live in truth. I communicate. I am the truth. So, yeah.
Hmm.
Well,
Beautiful.
this has been an interesting, another lovely podcast, I would
Yeah,
say.
me too.
Yeah,
It's been a great conversation. Thank you, Carol.
absolutely. Well, it was nice of y'all joining us here today at Neuvias. Hopefully, y'all are having a good morning, a good evening, or a good afternoon, wherever side of the world you're at. My name is Carol. This is Marge. We are leaving you on a lovely note. Love yourself. We love you. Take
Yes,
care.
indeed.
Absolutely. And come see us at
Like and
Neuvias.
subscribe. And don't forget to like and subscribe.
Yeah, like and subscribe.
Yeah,
Come check us out at Neuvias.com.
absolutely. All right. Thank you.
Have a
Bye.
good night.